Today we'll discuss about Kenopanishad. Kena means questions. So today the questions like who is the seer, who is seeing through the eyes, who is hearing through the ears, who is feeling through the skin, who is tasting through the tongue. So you will have the answer for these questions in Kenopanishad. And this Upanishad is divided into 3 parts. So before going into these 3 parts, let us have this experience. Just become still, silent. Become aware of the sounds around you and feel the silence that exists between the sounds. There is nothing to analyze, there is nothing to think. You are just becoming still. You are feeling the silence. Just feel the silence. So when you experience this silence, you are still, you are not analyzing, you are not thinking. So this silence that exists within you, it is your own unique experience. So this silence, which is your own unique experience, you cannot explain to others. You cannot explain through words. You cannot make this silence understand by analyzing it. You have to just become still, and it is your own unique experience. So this awareness, this consciousness, this attention is known as the self-awareness. And this Kenopanishad talks about this self-awareness, which cannot be explained by words, and you will understand more about this self-awareness in this Kenopanishad. It says, if you experience the silence, self-awareness constantly, then you become wise and you attain immortality when you leave this body, when you leave this world. And it also says, the tongue never sees the self, the ear never sees the self, the eyes never sees the self. So all these sense organs, it cannot see or experience the knower, the king, the ruler, the self. But the self performs all actions through the ears, through the eyes, through the tongue, through the skin, through the mind, through the intellect. And even the breath never understands this self. But the breath, the activity of the breath is carried out because of this self. And it says, if somebody says that I know the Brahman, I know the self, then they say they do not know, because by knowledge, by explanation, by thoughts, you cannot explain your unique experience of that stillness, that silence, that attention. It cannot be comprehended by words. That's why it says, those who say I know, they do not know, because of the only reason it cannot be explained by words. And one of the slokas says, the one, if you know that this self-awareness, this self-consciousness is the one who is performing the activity of seeing, hearing, thinking, tasting, then you attain immortality. So in the second part, it gives a story about deities. It seems deities won a war and they were rejoicing the victory. The victory over the demons It really happened through the Brahman, through the self. But the deities felt that it is because of them they got the victory. So, to give the knowledge to the deities, the Brahman appeared in front of them, in front of the deities. And as he appeared in front of them, they were stunned by his appearance, and the deities started asking themselves, who is this spirit? Who is this one appearing in front of us? So, the deity Indra, he sends the fire to the Brahman to find out who he is. So, the fire, the Agni, appears in front of the Brahman and asks this Brahman, who are you? The Brahman says, if you want to understand me, do what I say. And he says to show his power, to burn a small piece of grass, a small blade of grass. He wanted to dry it up and fire it. But the Agni, the much he tried, he could not do anything. So this blade of grass, this blade of straw, it never got fire with the Agni's much effort. So the fire says, the Agni says, so now the deity, the fire, goes back to Indra and says, I do not know who is this spirit. I could not do anything in front of him. I could not even make a straw fire with my energy, with my power. So the Lord Indra, then he sends the wind to the Brahma, the spirit, the self. So the wind, it comes, again the spirit says, the Brahma says, to move a blade of grass with his power, with his might, the might of wind. And the wind tries his best, and he could not move the straw. So the deity, the spirit, the Brahma says, now you go back to your Lord Indra, and send somebody else. So he goes back, and now the Lord Indra himself feels that this spirit is something more powerful, is someone more powerful than them. Then he comes directly to the spirit, the self, the Brahman, and he asks, who are you? So when he asks, the very next moment, his form turns into a Shakti, Uma, God, the mother. And he asks her, who is that spirit who is more powerful than us? Then God, Uma, the mother, she says that it is the self which gained victory over the demons. And it is neither you, nor the wind, nor the fire. It is only through the power of that deity, that Brahman, that self, you got the victory over demons. And one sloka says why they mentioned God Indra, the Lord Agni, the fire, and the wind. Because they say, one sloka says, these three deities are very close to Brahman. And in the next sloka it says, Lord Indra and the fire, Agni, the wind, they are very close to the self because they are present in the human being. How it is present? It is present because they are representation of the sattvic intellect, the rajasic intellect, and the thoughts, or we can say tamasic intellect. So in one sloka it says, these three what exists in the man, it is the three powers through which we can very easily recognize the Brahman, the self, with the sattvic intellect. When the tamasic or rajasic intellect turns into sattvic intellect, it is almost equal to the self. It is also pure. although there is analyzing ability in that, but it is almost same to the Brahman, the self. So one sloka says that this principle of the self being a deity, the controller of all actions, all victory, it applies to the man and also it applies to the nature. When we say it applies to the nature, it means it is the God, the Supreme Soul, performs all the actions in the whole universe, the whole world drama. It is played by the direction of the Supreme God. And the individual human being, the whole activity is carried out by that individual self. So the God here it mentions about the individual self and the Supreme Self. In other words, here they mention the word Brahman. So for the nature, the Brahman means the God, the Supreme Soul, which controls all the activities. And for the individual human being, the Brahman is the soul which carries out all the activities through the ear, through the eye, through the tongue, and through the skin. And in next sloka it says, that is why for this reason we have to meditate upon the Supreme Soul and the individual soul. When we meditate upon the Supreme Soul, we achieve His power, the qualities, and when we meditate upon the individual self, we acquire the original qualities of the self like peace, love, happiness, joy, and powers to do everything in the right manner. So in the third part, the disciple asks the master, tell me something more about Brahman. And the Rishi, the master, replies that I have told you everything, I have told you all the secrets. And what you have to do now is by meditation, by self control, and by performing action without attachment, you can lead a very happy life. And with these practices, he attains the supreme, the divine, the bliss, becoming free from all sins and all evil of lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. Thank you.